The Lyre training system for grapevines, Grape Video 17. This presentation assumes a familiarity with the grapevine terminology in Grape Videos 1 to 5. And here is the Lyre training system as presented by Professor Cesare Intrieri at the University of Bologna. Isn't this gorgeous? This is well after harvest in October, but what an elegant system of a horizontally divided canopy with upright shoot growth. The person most often associated with this training system is Dr. Alain Carbonneau from the Viticultural Institute at Montpellier in France. And I believe he is the one who designed and developed this whole system. And I present it to you because it is truly elegant for any grapevine variety that is upright growing, such as the Vitis vinifera vines, the European grape varieties. It is truly wonderful, and if finances or funds were no object in terms of developing this training system and operating it, this would be a wonderful choice for training upright growing grapevines. And here's a schematic of it. And you can see that we've put the shoot growth on one side and left the spurs that would be along a cordon on the closest side of this trellis before the growth has begun. On both sides there would be a series of catch wires, and the shoots would be shoot positioned up through those catch wires to create that horizontally divided canopy. Here's a picture of it in trial in the Hudson River Valley of New York years ago. And you can begin to see how that trellis is constructed. Let's talk about the advantages of the Lyre training system. It can convert large grapevines into large yields of quality fruit. And if this sounds familiar, many of the attributes of the Lyre training system are the same as those for Geneva double curtain, because both have a horizontally divided canopy, and in one case with GDC, the shoots are positioned downward. Here, they are positioned upward. So another advantage is the fruit is well exposed to sunlight for ripening, and it's quite mechanizable. I believe that Professor Carbonneau has worked in recent years with many aspects of the mechanization of the Lyre training system. So if you were to have an interest in actually applying this on a large scale, you certainly would want to look into his work on this training system. The upright growth is not devigorating as opposed to Geneva double curtain with the downward growth of shoots, which is quite devigorating. So this is a big plus of using the Lyre system for upright growing grape varieties. Disadvantages? They're pretty much the list that we presented for GDC. It involves a very complex and costly construction of a complex trellis. Here is that picture once again. And in my limited exposure to this training system, you can almost see it in this picture that if the growth on the trellis is not perfectly symmetrical, you can start to get the post to lean to one side or the other because of the weight that's out to the side of the center line of the trellis. So were you to do this, you probably would want to make sure that even the line posts are pretty sturdy, as the one shown here, and that they're installed fairly deep in the ground so they do not side shift. Here's a schematic that we've put together with some revision from one that was done at the University of California at Davis. And in the schematic, we're advocating a 4-foot depth of the line post in the ground, which is quite a bit deeper than is typical for a standard vineyard. And you might wonder, how would you get line posts that deep, because that could be quite a task. Well, I came upon an approach that is very novel and would work quite well. Let me show you how easy it can be to put line posts 4 feet in the ground. This is a picture taken at the Oxley farm just outside of Lawton, Michigan. And they're using a rather large machine, an excavator, to put these posts in the ground. These are 10-foot posts, and they are installing them 4 feet in the ground. Let's watch a video to see how this post installation goes. This is done fairly early in the spring when the ground still has a lot of moisture, but it's just that quick and that fast. They're doing about 4 rows at a time here, and now we'll watch it again. Pretty hefty posts to lift, so once they're in place, it doesn't take Chris Oxley, the operator of the excavator, very long to just slide that post right down in the ground 4 feet, just like that. Isn't that amazing? Okay, I'm going to go on. It takes Chris's brother Rick there and 2 other fellas a lot of hustle just to keep up with having the posts ready, because they go in the ground this very, very easily. Here we go. We'll see it again. There you have it. Well, that's one disadvantage, that it takes a complex, costly construction of a trellis, and it requires specialized equipment, not what we just saw, but in terms of shoe positioning, in terms of pruning. There's a lot of specialized equipment needed for the Lyre system. It does require shoe positioning, or the system will not work if you don't keep the 2 canopies divided. It requires large vines if you're going to have 2 large canopies developing side by side on this 3-dimensional training system. It's not suitable for vines that experience frequent winter injury, because it would take so much work to reestablish this complex vine structure. The trellis maintenance is considerably more difficult than with a standard trellis. When something goes wrong, it takes a lot of work to redo those line posts with that complex structure. And those are the advantages and disadvantages. I won't read them all over again right now, because I just did that. But if you were considering starting a vineyard with an upright growing variety and your resources were considerable, this is truly an elegant training system worthy of consideration. Very few people would be able to consider doing this, but it is very, very elegant. And here's another look at the University of Bologna of this system in place. And Professor Intrieri has made several trellis innovations. You can see the metal posting here for this training system, and he has been a tremendous innovator of trellising, that is the construction of the supports for some of these very elegant three-dimensional training systems, including Lyre. Well, that's it. A short presentation on the Lyre training system to perhaps whet your appetite for a very, very elegant training system for upright growing grapevines. Until next time, happy grape growing.